Hello.
Hey, Les, how are you doing?
I'm not doing so great. And I said, you know what? Let's get on the podcast and do a little recording because I have some ideas, some thoughts. I need some consoling, and I also want the opportunity to talk about my friend.
Okay.
So,
and the podcast are public, as you say.
Yes.
And I are available for you.
Right. I was going to push back and a little bit if you said the public needs to know, but you know what? The public needs to know, and the public needs to hear this person's name. So, welcome to another episode of Black Boomer Besties from Brooklyn. I am recording today because about an hour and a half ago, I got word that I lost a friend, Andrew Citron. And Andy, as I call him, passed away yesterday after a 2-year illness. I knew he was ill. We knew he was ill. But when a person has an illness or a terminal illness, Lord knows we don't know, when their last days are. So Dr. Andrew Citron was my boss. He was a mentor to me in the world of anesthesiology. He was certainly the first person I met, first colleague I met when I interviewed with him for my current position 16 years ago. So I've known Andy for 16 years.
Wow.
I'll say that Andy taught me so many things. We were about the same age. But he finished training a bit before I did, because remember, I had a second career, or medicine is my second career. And Andy just taught me so many things about being a good anesthesiologist. But even outside the world of clinical medicine and patient care and all of that, he was just a good human being. And when you know people in the field that I'm in a busy hospital, when patients are often sick and your work environment can be stressful at times, sometimes it's difficult to notice the humanity and the goodness in the people who are working next to you.
Right.
But it wasn't hard to notice that Andy was a special person. And he just occupies a special place in my heart. Andy had a wife. I won't mention his wife or his 2 daughters' names, but I knew them as well. And one of the reasons why I really wanted to talk to you about this today, because while I feel such a deep loss over the loss of my friend, the other side of me, I feel a little bit selfish. Because I'm concerned about my loss and my feelings when his wife and his girls have such an immeasurable loss.
Yeah.
So I just want to explore that a little bit, because I know I'm not alone in these thoughts. You and I have talked about, when we've heard about a loss of a loved one or a friend, we commonly just off the cuff say, I'm sorry for your loss.
Yeah.
And Ange, you're the one, as usual. Excuse me a second.
I'm so sorry.
You're such a damn gadfly. You're such a damn gadfly.
What is it? What did you call me? What did you call me, Leslie? What did you
A
call
gadfly.
me?
Remember that from
I
literature?
want you to spell it. I want you to repeat it. I want you to spell it.
I'm not going to repeat it because if I'm using it in the wrong context, I don't want to be embarrassed. Okay. So I just want to go.
It's too late. It's too late.
It's Gadfly, a gadfly.
Okay. And what do you want it to mean?
I'll use it I'll speak about the context so you'll know what I mean. So when we've talked in the past about expressing, I'm sorry for your loss, what you've reminded me or what you've told me is that statement actually brings the focus to you and not to the person who has suffered the loss.
Yeah.
You are telling them how you feel rather than presenting an expression of understanding or empathy about how they feel.
Right.
And at that time while it's nice, it's catchy, and it is a conveyance of sorrow, it doesn't speak to that person. It really tells them about you at a time when they may not necessarily be concerned about you.
Right.
So because that's in the back of my head, I'm tearful and I'm grieving because I lost someone. Yeah. So I'm turning that loss inwardly. You know, I lost someone that I've loved and that was a friend who taught me things that further my career and my practice of medicine. Mm-hmm. And I have a loss also. There's another component of it that I think is important here is that Andy, being a very private person, during his 2-year illness, he didn't keep in touch with me or, some of my colleagues. So whereas I would reach out to him occasionally on his birthday or text him just because I think of him frequently, I lost a connection when he retired due to his illness. And I wish I had some time over the last 2 years to spend with him and let him know how much he means and meant to me.
Yeah.
And I think when he made the decision, to stay away and deal with his illness more personally, that not only did he rob me abruptly of my friend and my ability to try to soothe him through a difficult time, I also wanted to make sure that he knew how much he meant to me.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if I had the opportunity to express that. So there's so many emotions going on, and that's why
this must be really, he must have been really special to you for you to want to speak of him publicly and for you to want to be so vulnerable in your grief. I don't think there is any way that Andy did not know how much you loved him. One cannot be in your space and not know, because you show it in little ways, big ways. You're always the one who is who's reaching out, who does those little things like what I got the other day. That token of topaz that you sent me, along with the cards, along with the it's just who you are by nature. And so I hope you will allow yourself to believe that Andy deeply knew how much you
felt for him,
how much you loved him.
Yeah.
How much you loved him. And I everything that you said can be true at the same time. You know, you feel the way you feel, his family feels the way they feel. He felt the way he did to want to just maybe control his energy, how he was using it. There may have been a lot of things that he wanted to say and do with his family, and he had to kind of create that sanctified space. But it doesn't make you any less sorrowful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All of that is true. It's true. You're experiencing the fact that all of that is true at the same time, because I know that you would not want him to have focused on you and how you were feeling.
Of course, right.
Your love would have wanted him to do exactly what he did. Exactly what he did. You know? And you know, when we give out love, like those text messages that you sent or other ways that you reached out, you know from your own experience that those things catch the other side just when they're needed. So you've talked about Andy so
I've been talking about him for 16 years, you know, so laughing with him and this. So I believe our loved ones live in our hearts and in our memories. So, you know, he's there. He'll always be there.
Right.
You know, a couple other things that I'm thinking though. Listen, on my way home after I heard the news, I went into a store and I said to the young man working behind the counter, I'm like, how's your day going? He says, it's going. I'm here. I'd say he was about 28 years old, whatever. I'm here. And I said, wow. You don't know how lucky you are.
Wow.
My friend is not here anymore. He was here yesterday.
Oh my goodness.
You know, obviously I didn't get into that conversation. I'm like, all right, have a good one. Yeah. But it makes me think about that a lot. You know, we are here and many people didn't wake up this morning, you know, and people were here yesterday. And then, I don't know, it just takes me to such a place that I tell you, from what I know, even from a clinical medical standpoint, from a humanistic standpoint, and from a societal endpoint, we do death so poorly.
Yeah.
So poorly. And not one person that I know of has ever left this world without it. We all die. We all go.
I'm like, death. Okay, that.
It eludes nobody. Nobody escapes it. And we still, you know, I've taken courses on death and dying. I've read books on death and dying. Yet and still, there are many people who won't even mention the word.
Right.
You know, as though they're going to live forever. You know, I dream of a world morbid dream this is, I'll admit, I dream of a world where we feel free to discuss it, free to talk about the end of our lives, what we would want at the end of our lives, what our endings and celebrations of life would look like. I dream of a world where that's not taboo and morbid. I dream of a world where we can start celebrating our lives instead of lamenting early the end of our lives. And with the fear around talking about our lives. This is something that I've said to my family. One of the reasons why it's important to talk about death and the end of our lives is that you put your loved ones and those mourning your loss in a better position. I've told my mother, I don't want to have to take care of and handle your 80 plus years of affairs in grief. I'd rather do that while you're alive and can make decisions. Waiting for the family to grieve over a loss is an awful time. Emotionally, physically, people are spread out in different places. People may not be prepared for untimely deaths. It's just a poor time. I mean, I'm a planner. I'm an organized person. That may be the left brain part of me. Indeed. And I just look at the way that some people's lives end. And it is just, I just think it's an awful thing and avoidable. You know, and this is not any at all comment about Andy at this point, because I don't have any idea about that part of his affairs. But I'm just talking in the general sense that I would love that the end of their lives are spent in celebration of their lives and discussing the sadness, talking about memories. You know how sometimes when we lose people, we don't bring up their names sometimes to their loved ones because we don't want to hurt them?
Yeah.
As though like they're not already hurting. And the mention of their names, what I found in talking to people and reading about it is that people prefer you not to act as though the person didn't exist. Right. You know, people like when you talk about the good memories and things like that. It's the opposite of what we think of intuitively. But wow, today was not a day that I intended to talk or think about this. But, you know, here we are.
Here we are. What would you have said to Andy if you had had the chance?
Wow. I had so many imaginary conversations with him over the last 2 years. And when I would text him, I would leave it brief.
Yeah.
You know, because I wasn't sure of things. But I would, let him know that professionally, what an impact he's had on my life in the practice of medicine. And if I say so myself, I've been told that I'm a very good doctor and a very caring physician. And a lot of that, you know, he's modeled that for me. He's always been an honest. I've always said to him, I said, Andy, you should never be a boss. You're too nice. I would tell him, you're a sucker. You know, you're the head of a department. And as an anesthesiologist, you know, Department of Anesthesiology, we need to stand up on our own, you know, because sometimes, you know, proverbially, the other departments or surgeons or whatever can take advantage of us, right? So, and I'm like, you're too nice. You know, you let people get away with things or whatever. But he always stood up for us docs. You know, he always had our backs. He always defended us in the larger sense when he was on the med exec committees and things like that. So he certainly represented us very well.
Right.
You know, you always expect your chief or your boss, you know, to be like, I would always say, you know, when is the shoe going to drop? You know, oh, he seems so nice and stuff, but yeah, when it hits the fan, it's really going to come out.
Right.
And it hasn't dropped.
Nope. Wow,
he was a great person to work for. Goodness. You know, he was understanding. He was concerned about me and Omari through Omari's illnesses. You know, he allowed me to be a mom of a sick son while I was still working. That reminds me of one of the regrets that I have, that he left around the time that I believe right after I returned back from my kidney transplant 2 years ago. So his last months, I would say, you know, working with us, I didn't spend time with him. He would always check in. And when he would check in with me, he would say, this is the way he he would say, I'm not calling you as your boss because I don't want to get in trouble bothering you while you're away on leave. I'm calling to see how you're doing as a friend.
Oh, wow.
You know?
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
Wow.
You know, are you taking care of yourself? He didn't give me any pressure at all. But when I told him I was coming back to work a bit early, because I felt so great after my organ donation, he was like, yes, yes. You know, a lot of times I would get requested to provide anesthesia for colleagues or people I knew or things like that. And I'm like, Andy, I'm one person. I can't do anesthesia for everybody. You know how I feel about this. I hate giving anesthesia to people I know, you know?
Oh my goodness.
Or like I heard yesterday, someone was telling me about a patient and they're like, well, you know, this person is a big wig and whatever. They're like a VIP or whatever. And I'm like, you know, I don't want to hear about VIPs. Everybody's a VIP. I don't want to know what they do or who they know. And what I don't want to know that. You know, so Andy and I would always laugh about these things. It was awesome.
Perfect. Wow.
So I just wanted to speak his name out loud and just say out loud what he meant to me. Maybe somebody will hear it that knew him. Yeah. And I don't want this at all to be about me, but I'm hurting today.
Right.
And for a while. And I look at death in a way that this is the reason why we don't visit loved ones in cemeteries, because traditionally in my family, we allow memories and spirits and loved ones to live with us all the time. So I don't need to go to a place to talk to a stone, the grave marker of a loved one. You know, I can talk to them as I'm sitting. So I just want to, you know.
Yeah. So that's available to you.
Yeah.
Because he is.
Right.
His body is no longer here, but
right,
he is.
But he still is. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Let me ask you this. I might be seeing the family. I won't say I'm sorry for your loss.
Do not. What are some options?
Give me some options.
Well, first get your heart space right. And
I just blew my nose on. I've been dabbing at it for 20 minutes.
That is so much better than allowing it to drip.
Okay,
Thank you.
I was... All right.
That's okay.
I'm good now.
It's okay. All good choices. Thank you.
What are better things to say?
Well, what I do is first get my heart right.
Well, that's true, but I've heard you say, let me know how I can serve you at this time.
Yeah.
It still rings a little empty for me, though.
Well, and don't say that if... what makes that even sweeter is if you offer, can I serve you by bringing you some meals?
Right, because people are not going to,
things like that. Be specific. Right. Be specific around, look how you felt when you got so many food services.
It was everything.
It was amazing.
It was everything. Not only did people say, let's get well soon, but Ellen...
They made sure you did.
Ellen was the first person to bring like this massive amount of catered Italian food that I froze.
Unbelievable.
Oh my God. My partner, Dina, she's a great cook, and she just baked this dish for me that I like tucked away and froze and ate like little bits at a time so it wouldn't run out. And then the people, Domily and Pam and Shola, they hired a chef for me.
Yeah.
So I felt their love through their actions.
Right. That's the answer.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the answer. Right. And you can just in the words, like, think about what they... I know you're hurting right now, and if Andy was a wonderful person, you know what I mean? It was wonderful to have had him in my life, right? Because oftentimes your loved ones are shocked by how much other people know you,
right?
And are touched by you. Yeah. So you'll the focus is really just thinking about them and not being, and once you do that, I think it becomes easy to find things to say that could be encouraging. I'm praying for peace and those types of things. Yeah. Yeah. I remember when I used to have those head talks, those courageous community conversations at my home a few years ago. And there was one that I facilitated around death and dying. And I remember, I'm into TED Talks, and I remember seeing a few TED Talks that one of them focused on the work of this woman. I don't remember her name, but I do have these TED Talks on a website that I'll put in the episode notes. But one person it was in Louisiana. She converted the side of an old building, painted it with chalkboard paint, and then actually painted on the words, "Before I die, I want to," and drew lines. And anyone, of course, there was chalk. You could come and write that. And it became this thing that people adopted in cities all over the world.
It's like a public bucket list.
Exactly. A public bucket list. And I definitely know the power of writing, of getting it from your head through your hands onto something that you can then read. Mm-hmm. Using your eyes, all of these senses involved in it. It's significant. It makes a significant difference. So that's one thing that we might want to encourage people to do, because as you were saying, when you die, you're good. The person who died is good.
Yeah.
It's the people that they leave behind that go through whatever,
those stages or whatever,
financial or emotional regrets about what they wish they'd said, what they said that they wish they hadn't said.
Yeah.
All of those things. So maybe even just putting some thought into, well, what would I want my people to know when I'm gone?
Yeah.
And take the opportunity. It doesn't have to be in writing. Tell people. What's that people are saying now? It's a common. Give people their flowers.
Right.
So these are things you can do in the right now.
And you're right about that. And that's an action that one can take. The people who are grieving can take to live their life a little bit differently. And not to say that their life is bad or anything, but it's just be more mindful to tell people while they're here how much you care, what they mean, what their lives mean to you.
Right.
Andy and I would sit and laugh sometimes. After he was gone, sometimes I would a few times I would send him a picture of how many patients I had in labor. And I'd say, you are so lucky you are not here. I remember the one night the board was filled up and I'm like, let me tell Andy what he's missing.
And you think that didn't make him laugh? Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Wow. I what you said about when the person is gone, it's the family and the village that is the one that has to deal with the loss.
Yeah.
Monique had a birthday recently, and I don't know if I thought it or if I actually told it to her, but if I didn't tell it to her, it's because I didn't want her to think that I was really nuts. But I wanted to say to her, I have to die before you.
That sounds like a threat.
It sounds like I'm going to go before you.
You better take care of yourself.
I don't want to be in this world without you.
Oh, wow.
So I'll go before you, and to heck with how you deal with my death.
Right.
I don't care about your grief. It's all about me.
Right. You'll be all right. That's so funny.
But anyway.
Les, you said something about how the celebration of life aspect of dying, and I think there are communities here. I know in New Orleans, and maybe more generally in African American communities, there is that homegoing. Mm-hmm. There's always sadness in death, right? So it's not a matter of
joy,
but right. But there can also be celebration in it. right?
Let me speak of celebration. Yeah. You must witness at some point a Ghanaian homegoing service.
Really?
You know,
I've
for
seen
those who don't
pictures
know, my
only from
husband
you.
is Ghanaian, and I've been to several Ghanaian, Ashanti in particular, homegoing services for my in-laws and other friends and family. 3 or 4 days of ritual. Each day is you're adorned in a different color based on the day or your relationship to the person.
Oh, wow.
It's majestic in many ways. It's celebratory in certain ways. There were the days of wearing black in the solemnity. But it's, as an American, I've never experienced anything like it. You know, it's really something else.
Right.
You know, Andy chose his final time, his last times with his family and doing things in his own way. But I remember a few years ago, you flew out to California to join one of your friends in his final days. You know,
this tattoo here is for him.
Oh,
I'm so I was thinking about him when you told me about Andy, and thank you for giving me space for this, because I wanted this to be your time. But yeah, that was tough. His name is Michael Stevenson, and really one of the purest hearts that I have known, and he showed it in his actions. I met him at Cisco, and we immediately clicked. One of the things that I'll mention about him is 2 things. One is he grew up in North Carolina, in a family who did not appreciate Black folks, and he's a white guy, and he completely rejected everything that he was taught to be and think. And he was such a man of the people. I remembered one of the things that he did that I was immensely just blown away by is he would go into San Quentin jail, and this was his own initiative program that he started to teach the men there leadership qualities. And this he did through his illness. He had a very long battle with cancer, and he did this work as if like nothing, no barrier, no would have stopped him from doing the work. And one of the ways that he showed me who I was to him is I visited him a few times when he was in the hospital. But when he was close, when he was on his deathbed, as they say, he specifically asked for me to come there and be with him. I got this tattoo when I was leaving. I got it in Oakland. And I was so honored by that. I have great pictures of him holding my hand. He's still in my favorites on my phone. He's still because I like to be scrolling or whatever and see his name see his name pop up
I
and just get, you know what I mean?
When people have passed, I keep them.
Right. Just get that hit, of positive memory. But yeah, he's amazing.
And see,
person.
I say people live in my heart, and you have a tangible, a right arm of in memoriam and memories of
my memorial. My brother-in-law. Yeah, it's I think tattoos for me are I use them to release pain, emotional pain. That's when I got this first one in the middle, the biggest one. I didn't know that it would have the effect I hoped, and it did. I used to, at a drop of a pin, I would cry about my parents' death, and it was hard to function. And I was like, well, I'd had one or two small tattoos, and I said, I wonder if I kind of took on some emotional, physical pain, whether it would allow me to release the emotional pain that I was feeling, and it did. I had the whole setup. I was listening to reggae and Bob Marley throughout the whole time. It was a few hours of the tattoo, and that worked. So it became just my arm for like a memorial, but also just to. I think tattoos are beautiful, so it's just kind of a transference of pain into beauty.
Yeah. So we all have our ways.
Yeah, we do.
All right.
We do.
I'm going to spend the rest of the day quietly.
Yeah. I just want to remind you that Andy knew and his family knew, because all that you talked about him, I'm sure he talked about you at home. And everyone wants their loved ones to be loved by others.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of people hate their boss. And
thank God I don't know what that's like.
Yeah. Amen.
I've never hated a boss of mine. Thank God.
Yeah. That's awesome.
You know what?
Yeah.
I've lived a whole life and never not gotten along with a boss. I've never loved the boss, though. Like I do.
Right. There's a difference.
Right.
There's a difference.
Well, thank you for listening. I know this was an odd conversation, but I had to bring it out because I wanted to tell you all what's on my heart.
Yes. Thank you for sharing.
Rest in peace. Rest in power, my friend. And till we meet again.
This has been
another episode of Black Boomer Besties from Brooklyn.
Love you guys.